Hello class, this is Professor Robert McDonald, and I will be your instructor for criminal law here during fall semester 2016. This is a course introduction audio tape. The reason I'm not doing a visual tape is because I want you also during this presentation, during this audio conversation that we're having, to also be looking at your screen on your computer. So to get the most out of this tape, which I want everybody to listen to, I want you to have the syllabus accessible. My recommendation is you print out a copy and have it in front of you. And also I want you to have Blackboard up, go to our website and pull up the course shell for criminal justice, and it should be CRJ 3000-800. Now, so to get the best out of this tape, that's what you need to do. This tape will also, because I want everybody to listen to it, it'll also meet that quick requirement that everybody has to access the course so I can report to the registrar that you are active and participating. This is very important as there's a lot of students that want in this course, and so if you get dropped, it's very understandable that somebody will slide into your slot and you won't be able to get back in. So it's real important that you access the course. Any of my online classes that I teach, and I'm sure the other professors operate in the same manner, you really have to stay on top. You can't just let things get behind. If you're working from behind in this online class, or if that's your intention, then you probably be better off finding another professor in another class. But if you stay on top of things, you should do quite well. As you know, criminal law is a core course for the major in criminal justice, so it's very important. By now you've taken the Intro to Criminal Justice, you've taken criminology, and this is the next step, is understanding how our laws are developed and how they impact the criminal justice system. Now, if you look at page 1, and again, one of the things I want to point out as well is the syllabus is your roadmap. It's going to tell you what your expectations are each week. These things rarely change in my online classes because things like weather, those sort of things don't really impact us as much as, say, a lecture class where classes could be canceled. That rarely happens in the fall anyway. We do run into some problems in the winter. So I'm assuming now that you have the textbook, you have the syllabus in front of you, or you're watching it on the screen, and you also have pulled up the Blackboard. We'll do that last. So let's look at that syllabus first. Number 1, our textbook. The book we're using is Criminal Law Today, the 6th edition by Frank Smoliger. As information, he is a former professor at the University of North Carolina in Pembroke. I never met the guy, but I do like his work. Unfortunately, this is a new edition, so I'm hoping that some of you are still able to find a used edition. These things usually last 3 years, and this is just when the cycle came. I have updated the course materials for this new edition. The changes are not that great, but there are some subtle changes, some additional cases that are discussed, those sort of things that are added to this particular text. So again, Criminal Law Today, 6th edition, Frank Smoliger and Daniel Hall. You'll see it listed clearly, excuse me, on the first page of the syllabus. Again, my name is Robert McDonald. My office is in Sampson Hall, room 215. My office hours are listed here. Now, for some of you that are on campus, you can stop by during office hours. If you are a full-time distance student, which many of you are, send me an email. And if you need to speak with me in person and you don't want to have to make a trip to university, we can normally handle those issues on the telephone or through email. The preferred way to reach me is through email. I check it several times a day, even during breaks, and I will get back to you. I take a lot of pride in quick response to my students, and anybody that, if you talk to somebody that's been in my classes, they'll validate that. Again, email me. It's the best way, because if I'm out of the office for a few days and you call me and leave a message, I might not get it. Another thing is, whenever you write me, make sure you use your university address. Do not use your Google address or your Yahoo address, because I'm not going to respond to it, and a lot of those type of emails go into my junk folder and I might not see it. So always communicate with me using your email address. If this is your first online class, I put a link on page 1 of the syllabus where you can go and just get educated on how distance education works, because everything we do will be online. All your tests are online, all your writing assignments will be uploaded online, that sort of thing. Going to page 2 of our syllabus, I'm not going to read this entire syllabus to you, but let me hit some of the highlights. Course description. This is a great opportunity for you to explore the fundamental nature of law. So we'll look at the historical development of criminal law in the United States and its contemporary application. You're going to review and get an overview of general legal principles, which will form the foundation, which do form the foundation of our legal system. We're going to look at a lot of complex and changing issues that impact our society, and if you're going to be a criminal justice professional, it's and I was one for many years. It's very important that you have a good working knowledge of how our criminal laws work and how they're designed and how they become created. And in doing this, we're going to look at a lot of the foundation information, such as the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. That's really, when you build a house, you build the foundation first. And much of the criminal laws in this country were based on our Constitution, on our Bill of Rights. And many of the things that were adopted are things that came with our English heritage, that were passed down through the common laws. So you'll study all this in the classroom. There's a brief biographical sketch of myself. I'm not going to read that to you. I spent 27 years in federal law enforcement with 2 agencies, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS, and the United States Postal Inspection Service. These are both federal law enforcement organizations where I had the authority, where I carried a weapon. I had the authority to make arrests, issue search warrants. The good thing is, I believe, relative to this class, is I've worked practically. I've had practical experience with nearly every topic that we're going to talk about. I've worked every type of investigation, from murder cases to complex fraud cases. Towards the end of my career, I evolved into anti-terrorism and terrorism-related matters. When I got out of when I retired from federal law enforcement, I had an expertise in terrorism and anti-terrorism subjects, and it was right after 9/11, and so I ended up becoming an instructor with the Department of State, the United States Department of State's Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, and that gave me a great opportunity to travel overseas and work with law enforcement organizations in over 50 countries. I'm also a Marine veteran, so I'm very sensitive to the needs and of our veterans, and if some of you in ROTC, that sort of thing. Our course week, real quick, will run from Monday morning till Sunday midnight. That's our week. You'll see it set up in the syllabus when we get to the calendar towards the end. You'll have weekly reading assignments. I've put together PowerPoint slides for each chapter. I've updated these slides with the new edition. These are very good slides. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes you see slides that aren't so well, and I've tried to evolve and develop these. I think they'll be very useful to you in understanding the material and also in studying for the exams. I'm going to use the audio tapes that I used in the prior edition because there's not many changes. For those of you that need a little bit more assistance, I've actually included an audio tape for each chapter, where I go through, basically, when I teach this class, I took my lecture notes when I teach this classroom, this course in the classroom. I use my lecture notes and put that on a tape. So that's another resource that's available to you to use in understanding the material in this class. I've also got audio files and film clips. Excuse me, I've already mentioned the audio files, but there'll be some film clips that I want you to watch to assist in content. I think the first week we actually have a short film to watch. Now, sometimes these films get deleted. Some of these things are YouTube. If all of a sudden you can't access the film, send me an email, and I'll get it up and running, just as a courtesy. You'll have tests, and I'll explain that further in a minute. You'll have quizzes. You'll also have writing assignments. Those will be the graded elements of the course. When I have a test or a quiz, it'll be open for 48 hours. Most of our tests are on Monday and Tuesday of a week. So in other words, if we finished Chapter 2 last week, you would have a test on Chapter 1 and 2 this week. I try to keep the test to a 2-chapter maximum. And also, the tests are not comprehensive, even the final. So once you finish those 2 chapters, you go on to the next one. You will not be tested on those chapters in future test and quiz. Even though some of this material does get repeated in the course. So it's important that you get that foundation down as you go through the class. But again, when I say it's open for 48 hours, let's say we have a test on Monday and Tuesday. I'll open it up at 1 minute after midnight on Sunday night. It'll close at 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday night. Why do I do it this way? Because some of you do work and have other responsibilities, and this should meet everybody's needs. I've had no complaints with this. It's your responsibility to know when tests are scheduled. I normally put out a weekly email to everyone advising what's going to occur that week, but you have to check this syllabus. It is your responsibility. And if you miss an exam and you don't have an authorized excuse, you're going to get a 0. I do look at all the tests. I'll look at each one of your test scores, and I'll look and see what you've missed. Many times I'll provide individual feedback or group feedback to the group as to what the problems are. I'm not going to post the answers to all the tests on here for obvious reasons, but I will give you that feedback if you want additional feedback. So just wait and see how things go, and you'll see what type of feedback I do provide. I'm not going to post all the tests because I don't want my questions ended up in some fraternity or sorority file down the road. You cannot work on exams or anything together. We have actually software that picks up on this. I've had a few classes. I've had 1 or 2 students that I was able to show that were working together on some tests. You don't want this to happen to you, because if it can be validated, number one, it's not fair to the rest of the students that are doing things right. If it can be validated, there's a good chance that you'll get an F in the course. Again, if you miss an exam, you're going to get a 0. Don't write me 2 days later and say, hey, I forgot about it. That's your responsibility. Why should I give you 2 extra days to study? You're going to have to participate in this class. Do not think that you can take these tests, quizzes, and do these writing assignments without preparing in advance, because the tests are timed. I'm not going to give you 2 hours to answer 25 questions where you can where it's not really a challenge. It's let's look up the answer in the book test. My tests are not run that way. In your writing assignments, I'll be looking for plagiarism. I hope not to see that. I haven't had a problem with that recently. That's why I use Safe Assignment. So when you upload your documents, it'll be checked against Safe Assignment. So if you do plagiarize, it'll immediately notify me, at which point that is a significant problem for you. You're going to get a 0 on that particular item, and possibly, depending on the severity, it could result in an F. So don't plagiarize. I want to see your ideas and your thoughts. There's information in here relative to students with disabilities, religious holidays. If you need tutoring, I'm not going to read all this to you, but I've included it here in the syllabus. There's also a proctoring statement. I don't anticipate we'll be using testing proctors. You'll be doing your test at home by yourself. On page 7 of the syllabus, you'll see a breakdown on how the grades, how grades are earned. I stick to that. I maintain your grades every day, so it's called a weighted average. And what does that mean? Tests count more than quizzes. So if you have 100 on a test and 100 on and a 90 on a quiz, you're not going to have a 95 average because the test counts more than the quiz. So there's a mathematical formula that's built into Blackboard that I've put together. But nonetheless, when you look at your weighted average, which will be the first thing you'll see under the grade there, that'll tell you exactly where you stand every day of the class. You'll always know where you are. Real quick on requirements, there'll be 7 exams, so roughly one for every 2 chapters. It could be multiple choice, true, false, short answer. I reserve the right to use any type of question on these tests, so you need to be prepared. Questions will come from the reading, from the PowerPoint slides, from any audio, films, or supplemental readings that I provide you. So be prepared in advance. If you want to do well, you have to have this stuff prepared in advance. Use the textbook. I mean, use any resource you have. You just can't work with somebody else. But you can use the textbook. You can use your notes. Whatever works for you in being successful. If you take all the tests on time, in other words, you're not late taking a test without an excuse or whatever, I will drop your lowest grade except the final exam. That cannot be dropped. There'll be 4 quizzes in the course. They're highlighted on the syllabus. They'll be on dates. They will not be the same week when an exam is scheduled. Normally my quizzes run on Wednesday and Thursday of that week. You'll see that. So the tests are Monday and Tuesday. The quizzes are Wednesday and Thursday. Discussion board. I haven't used a discussion board in this class before, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use one this time. There will only be 4 graded discussion forums in this class. And what I'm going to do is, you're not going to have a separate discussion board grade. You can earn 1 point for each one of these. So I'll take the average of how you do. So the max you can earn is 4 points on a discussion board forum. So if your average is 4 points at the end of the semester, I'm going to add 4 points to your final weighted average, which is that's a great benefit. So let's say you had an 86 average. If you do really well in these graded discussion forums in the class, and you earn the maximum points, everybody's not going to, but let's say you earn 4 points, your 86 would then be a 90, and you would go from a B plus to an A minus. So I'm going to use the discussion boards to give you an opportunity to add some points to your final average. There'll be no research requirement. There'll be 4 writing assignments. I have 2 what I call problem-solving assignments, where I'll give you questions, you analyze the material, you do whatever research is needed, and answer the questions fully. The key thing is this is a criminal law class, so I don't want opinion. I want you to, opinion's fine as long as you can back it up with a legal foundation. So I expect to see papers that are written that are linked with in-text citations to the textbook or other readings, okay, if I authorize outside sources, but linked to the textbook showing me that you understand the material, okay? So you want to be able to solve the problem at the same time connect it to legal reasoning, not I think this or I think that. That would be useless in this course. I'm also going to have you do 2 case briefs. I'm going to provide documents, and that's where you take an important judicial case, a landmark case that's been ruled on by the Supreme Court, and you'll break it down into certain component parts. I have an information document that explains how those get done. So your 4 writing assignments will be 2 problem-solving assignments and 2 case briefs. That's for the whole semester, so that's not that much, really. On page 9, make sure you take a good look at the writing instructions on page 8 and 9 as to how you prepare your documents. I don't want to see a bunch of documents that are poorly written, poor grammar. I'll grade you down if you can't spell. That's what spell check's for. And also, if you email me, I don't want to see Twitter language. I expect to see professional communications between the 2 of us. Your final grade, 70% is exams, 10% is quizzes, 20% on your writing assignments. And like I said, I'm going to use the discussion form for an opportunity to add bonus points to your final average. It's a great deal. All right, let's just look real quick on page 10 of the syllabus. This is your course outline. And I have an outline for every week, including the weeks like, this we'll have a fall break and we'll have Thanksgiving. I'm not going to read all these to you. But what you'll see is, let's look at week 1, August 17th to the 21st. You have a reading assignment, so you need to get your book in advance. Bill of Rights document that I want you to review that's posted. I'm going to post a student introduction discussion forum. In other words, I want each of you to introduce yourself to the class and to myself. I'm going to have that open for about 11 days. This way we all know each other in the class. So when you are doing the discussion board, when you make your post, you'll be required as a minimum, I say a minimum, to respond to 2 others. And now, when I'm talking about discussion board responses, I want to see something. If somebody else writes something, I want to see something that adds to discussion, not add a boy, add a girl. That's a great post. That serves no use at all. So make sure you add to the discussion and treat each other with respect. Week 2. Let's look at week 2 real quick. August 22nd, 28th, you actually have your first quiz. Wednesday and Thursday, the 24th and 25th, to be covered chapters 1 and 2. Your quizzes normally are 10 questions, and I'll give you about 12 to 13 minutes. The first quiz I'll probably give you a little bit longer, so you get used to it, but normally you'll get about 12 minutes to do a 10-question quiz. So you got to prepare in advance. I'm not giving you 30 minutes so you can sit there and just look up answers. You'll have a film to watch, and I've got a link that'll be on Blackboard. You have a practical elements of the crime exercise. This is not graded, but it shows you how to determine what are the elements of proof that we have to show to convict somebody of a crime. And the reason I put that in there is because you will have some questions about the elements of the crime on your first test. And then our first test will be Monday and Tuesday, August 29th and 30th. So anyway, you can go through this on your own and see the outline. Now, again, this is your roadmap, the syllabus. Now what I want you to do, let's look at let's go to Blackboard. Let me just walk you through that a little bit, and then we'll wrap this up. If you look on Blackboard, look at our shell. The home page is just what it is, the home page. You'll see some announcements and that sort of thing that I post. Most of what you need to access will be under course content. So click on Course Content, which is a tab on the left. I'll give you time to get that up. Again, that's the tab on the left called Course Content. Now when you pull that up, you'll see the book, the textbook. I think you can get it cheaper than that price. Those are things that are automatically placed. You'll have the syllabus. This is where you can download your syllabus. I've included 2 documents that I highly recommend you review before you take your first quiz and test. Blackboard test-taking document and a professor test-taking tips that this document I've developed myself. Here's the first tip. Make sure that you've got a good internet connection. Do not be taking these quizzes and tests on your phones and iPads. Make sure you have a reliable connection, because if you get kicked out, then you're starting to have a problem. I've got a writing assignment rubric, kind of gives you an idea how writing assignments are graded, the expectations. Case brief instructions. When we do our case briefs later in the semester, this will be the document that'll be a reference document. Discussion board form rules. When we do our discussion board, these are the rules. This explains exactly how you're going to get graded and what the requirements are and how you post, that sort of thing. So you have to read this document before you do go to the discussion board. There's the Bill of Rights document. That's assigned the very first week. Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. This is where your exams will show up, your quizzes, your writing assignments. All of those will come on this page. Your first writing assignment is going to deal with conspiracy, the law of conspiracy. which I think you'll find interesting. Your second writing assignment, you're actually going to be doing a report for me on a serial killer. Then the last two writing assignments are the case briefs, which are only usually 1 or 2 pages. Now, if you go down, you'll see all the PowerPoints. So if we look at one, we have Chapter 1 PowerPoint. Then we have the Chapter 1 Professor Audio. And this is an opportunity for you to listen to my lecture. I'll cover the points in the chapter that might be very useful to you. Some of you might want to use it. Some of you might not want. That's up to you. It's there for your use. There's a film clip. There's a web link. You just click on that. It'll take you to the Gideon film. That film lasts about 20 minutes. Then the next week, Chapter 2. There's the chapter. There's the PowerPoint. There's the Professor Audio. There's the elements, practical exercise elements. You won't see that yet. That won't post until week 2, and so on and so forth. There's not that many films because I want you to spend most of your time doing the reading and reviewing the slides, that sort of thing. Now, I might add something later on, but for now, that's all we've got. Most of you should know how to go to the Grade Center and pull up your grades. If you don't, contact the Information Technology Division, and they'll help you. And if they can't help you, reach out to me. So anyway, that's where your work's going to be. That's where you're going to upload all your work. That's where your tests are going to be. So this is our site for this particular course. Now, I've already been talking for a little over 26 minutes, which I think is plenty long enough for a course introduction. Make sure you listen to this tape, and if you have any questions, all you have to do is send me an email, and I'll get back to you.